In today's video, looking forward to 2022 with regards to residential sales, some major macro trends with regards to the average prices, and overall with regards to the Toronto/GTA real estate market. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, back with another video for you guys here today. You can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Feel free to get in touch with me with any questions you may have that arise during this video, or if you have any other questions about any topic with regards to the Toronto/GTA real estate market. Lastly, as a point of order, feel free to subscribe, comment, like, and review. Your support in that regard is greatly appreciated, but if not, you're not obliged to do so whatsoever, as I always say. Once again, you can find my contact info in the description. Enough of that. Let's get to the point of today's video, which is going through the latest Remax Outlook report. As is the case, they do every year towards the end of the year. They look forward to the following year, make some price predictions, make some trend predictions based on certain parameters that I will actually go through. And let's get to that right now. What are the parameters? What are these predictions based upon? Well, long story short, both in terms of predictions with regards to market trends, once again, whether it's sales data or price data, and in terms of trends with regards to what people's expectations are, what the consumer, the buyer, and the seller's expectation are, what buyers and sellers foresee in terms of how they view real estate and how they view their property and prices. All of this in this report is basically based upon a survey model, meaning they've surveyed with regards to, for instance, the market trends, real estate agents and brokers at 38 to name, and in terms of what consumers, buyers, and sellers are foreseeing. And that, of course, is based upon a survey, according to this report, of 1,500 people. The sample size, especially with regards to the brokers, is not that large. 38 brokers, right? As we will go through this report, please keep that in mind. To me, I'm not fully satisfied with the number of brokers involved in terms of making these estimates. However, those are obviously the parameters. Enough of that. Let's get to some of the numbers. Starting out with regards to the average sold price across country, they are predicting and projecting a 9.2% increase in average sold price. And what they're projecting to be the main cause of this is, as always, obviously low supply, but of course more inter-province and inter-country migration of buyers and sellers. Now, breaking it down to more dense areas, of course, more areas of focus on this channel and what more people are interested in is, for instance, the city of Toronto, and then we'll go through other areas as well. With regards to the city of Toronto, they're projecting the average sold price across all property types in the year 2022 to be at $1,164,000. And now, this might seem a little bit low, but you have to account for the fact that this is across all property types, and especially with regards to the city of Toronto, there are condominiums that make up a large share of the available inventory, more than any other region, and as a result, naturally speaking, the average sold price across all property types is a bit lower than when we look at York region, because there's less condominiums that make up the share of inventory and housing options. As a result, the prices are higher, carried up by the freehold properties, whether semi-detached, detached, or townhomes. Of course, when we just look at freehold properties within the city of Toronto, they're going to yield the highest average prices. But because there's so many condominiums and those are the least expensive housing options in terms of the number of inventory available, they do carry down the average. Thus, as a result, although it may seem a little bit lower, the projected average sold price of $1,164,000 is within reason. Now, what the average sold price across all property types was thus far in 2021, according to this report, and there's obviously a lot of ways to count the numbers, but within the city of Toronto, the average sold price was $1,054,000. So they're projecting a $140,000 to $146,000 increase in terms of price points, in terms of pure dollar figures, year over year, and a 10% increase in terms of percentage points. Now, obviously 2021, when it comes to average sold price across all areas on a monthly basis, as I go through my TREB resale market report on a monthly basis, was well above a million, and in certain cases, 1,100,000, with November obviously being the record-breaking sold prices all year, which in 2020, when I made my 2021 predictions in a separate video, I was actually quite conservative. I predicted prices would go up, but clearly I was incorrect in not being bullish and liberal enough. I was actually quite conservative in my estimates of how much prices would go up. Now, expanding to York region, which makes up a variety of different municipalities: King, Richmond Hill, Newmarket, Aurora, Vaughan, Markham, just to name the major ones. The average projected price for a property is far higher than we saw with Toronto. And part of the explanation, once again, before I give you the price, is due to the fact that there's far more freehold options available with little condominium inventory as compared obviously to Toronto. The projected average sold price here is $1,403,000 for the year 2022 in, once again, York region. Now in 2021, the average sold price for York region across all property types was 1.276, about $150,000 to $200,000 more than what we saw in Toronto, right, year to date. And obviously part of this was with regards to the worldwide event that occurred, and the larger macro trends. What we saw was a lot of people leave the city of Toronto and go towards the further out regions, obviously York region not being the best example of which, because York region actually, with regards to Richmond Hill, Markham, and Vaughan, are quite central now. They're not even that far removed from the city. But this was more so the case with further north region and more isolated regions of York region. And of course, not in this video, but if we were to go through the numbers of Simcoe region, those which are less central than obviously the city of Toronto, but even less central than York region, those saw the biggest increases in terms of percentage points. Part of the reason, of course, once again, is people leaving the city in terms of migrating outside of the city. But to me, I'm not the most satisfied with that answer. I do think that's one of the primary reasons, but I do think a lot of people overrate the massive migration that occurred from the city of Toronto to York region or to Durham, as caused by the worldwide event, that is. I think more so what happened was that the more affordable portions of the GTA were in Durham, were in Peel region, were in portions of Simcoe, far up north by Lake Simcoe. And I think it was more so due to the affordability criteria than people migrating outside of the city of Toronto because of the worldwide event, which sadly I have to speak in code, but I know most of you probably know what I'm referring to. And as an example, let's just take a look at Durham to end this portion of the video. Durham, across all property types, they're projecting an average sold price of $974,000, whereas year to date in 2021, the average sold price, according to this report, was $914,000. Once again, this is across all property types. With regards to just freehold properties, Durham is no longer under $1 million, right? The average sold price, especially for detached properties, are well above $1 million in Durham. That wasn't the case beginning of 2021, especially in mid to late 2020. You can still get a lot of detached lots in Durham for less than $800,000, let alone $1 million. In fact, in December of 2020, I purchased a 2-story detached property built in 2004 for $840,000 for a client. This is December of 2020. In that same area, which was in Whitby, in that same area, my client can now sell that property for well above $1 million, around 1.1 and 1.15 if we're being conservative. Now, that was more so the number side of things. Of course, this report also explicates people's opinions. Once again, consumers, sellers, buyers involved with the real estate market, renters, their opinions on certain factors and what they foresee for themselves and their families and their buying and selling decisions. Let's go through some of those survey results as well. 59% of people surveyed said that they considered a return on investment that a home renovation can have. Now, from the buyer perspective, when interest rates are very low, as was the case in 2021, things are starting to pick up a bit, tighten up, and of course, fixed rates are looking to get increased in the third or second quarter of 2022. But historically, when interest rates are at all-time lows, I always tell buyers it's better to pay a little bit extra in terms of the purchase price for property that doesn't need that much work versus going to a property that needs a lot of work but hoping to negotiate the price down. Why is that the case? Well, because when interest rates are quite low, your additional mortgage amount on a monthly basis in terms of how much you're paying towards interest won't be impacted all that much if you buy a property for $50,000 more that doesn't need that much work versus buying a property for $50,000 cheaper that needs $50,000 of work, because construction loans and loans for renovations and such are going to have higher interest rates, of course, than interest rates for mortgages. And put differently, that $50,000 as part of your mortgage loan is better spent than $50,000 saved that then you would have to, assuming you're not, paying all cash for the renovations, $50,000 that you would have to take a loan out, whether you're doing a HELOC or, once again, a construction loan or a renovations loan of some kind. Another one that I found quite surprising was the following, wherein 72% of people surveyed claimed that the rising home prices did not impact their purchasing decision, which I find very hard to believe. Take a look at it like this. First and foremost, even the most perfect survey, right? You're taking people's words at face value. But often what people actually say and what they actually believe, or even if they believe what they're saying, but what is actually the case, are two separate issues. I do not for a second believe that 72% of buyers, as per the sample size of this survey, actually were unmotivated in any shape or form from the rising prices. I do believe there's a great segment of people who either bought earlier than they wanted, fearing prices, or obviously haven't bought due to prices. And here, purchasing decision is a little vague, right? Is it just a decision to purchase or not purchase, or are we also accounting for decisions of purchasing in terms of location? Why did you choose to purchase, for instance, as we discussed earlier, in Durham? Well, a lot of people went towards Durham. A lot of people went towards the Simcoe regions. A lot of people went towards the outskirts of York region due to rising prices. And of course, the fact that proximity to work for a majority of people was no longer a main priority, it made those purchasing decisions more natural in terms of, now I have the affordability issue, but I don't really need to be close to the office anyways. Now, once again, this was more so towards the earlier portions of the year to the mid-year. Obviously, people are now more so going back to the office, although by no means at the full extent that we saw before the worldwide event. More people are certainly back at the office, and more people certainly do have a keen criteria for proximity to work now at the time of recording this video in December of 2021 than, for instance, August of 2021 or March of 2021. Those were far less of a factor. Now it's much more of a factor, but we're not even close to 100% capacity in terms of everyone returning to work. Part of the bullish nature of projecting the condominium market within the Toronto region, especially Midtown, North York, and downtown for 2022 is the prediction that even more people are going to be asked to return to the office as is scheduled. Furthermore, another result of the survey, which now this time I do think is actually a correct response, is that 49% of the people surveyed believe the housing market will stay and remain steady into 2022. Now, what here, once again, steady means is a little vague, but assuming that the prices will not jump and see the gigantic shift that we saw from 2020 to 2021, probably assuming that that's not going to occur. If the prices are going to increase, overall prices are going to increase at a moderate pace. I think particularly with regards to the GTA and the city of Toronto, I think remaining steady is best case scenario for buyers. I think what's more likely is that prices will continue to go up, but not to the same extent that we saw in 2021. However, I do for sure personally see less buyer competition than we saw in 2021. Now, of course, 2021 itself had peaks and valleys of all different kinds in terms of especially buyer competition. Buyer competition was very high in the first quarter of 2021, settled down into the summer months. A month into the fall, it was kind of steady. Now, all of a sudden, buyer competition picked up to close out the year. So there was peaks and valleys definitely within 2021, but I do see 2022 being a little bit more of a fair market, not in terms of prices. Again, it's definitely going to be a seller's market for the most part, but in terms of buyer competition. All in all, I think this entire report is far better in terms of getting an understanding of what real estate agents, brokers, and consumers think of the market and trends than actually using it as a blueprint to predict and project prices. But obviously the future is always very difficult to predict, and all we can do is, based upon the current and historical information, do our best job to project and not actually predict the future. Anyways, that's Sam from Saberi6 Real Estate and Remax Realtron Realty. As always, you can find my contact information in the description box with regards to Gmail, Instagram, and my office, of course. Feel free to follow me on TikTok as well. Every time I go see a property with a buyer, I do a quick little video for TikTok. Feel free to watch that as well. Yeah, you can get in touch with me with any questions you may have with regards to anything discussed in this video, anything discussed generally, or any question at all. As always, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.